So, if it isn't obvious to you guys, I've been thinking about Davos lately. I've been thinking about Davos, and mainly for the fanfic, and trying to do a chapter call on Davos. And I've reread Davos like all the way through, and thinking about where the story goes. And I've got a little rant. I've got some ranting on Davos here. And yeah, I was talking to some people recently on Discord, and they're like, please don't ruin Davos for me. But I have to vent. Okay, I really have to vent about the Onion Knight. So Davos in A Clash of Kings and A Storm of Swords is fucking fantastic. Okay, I love the Davos story. He has a clear kind of direction where his character is going, right? He starts out super, super dedicated to Stannis. He even describes Stannis as his god at one point, okay? And then he goes into war, and he gets humbled. He gets thrown onto a rock. He gets visions from the mother, and he realizes that like he is being humbled by the gods for trying to reach up to being something like Hand, and for obsessing over Stannis instead of the gods and things like this. And this transformation makes him question Stannis, which leads to him, freeing Edric Storm and using the Night's Watch letter for Stannis as his like get out of jail free card. All great. All fucking great. The Davos story is great up until this point. And then we get to A Dance with Dragons. And look, I know everybody loves them some Davos 4. Like everybody loves them some Davos 4. Everybody loves the Manderley speech. Everybody, like, I get it. I get it. People are really excited about that. However, think about the Davos story in A Dance with Dragons, okay? Davos won, okay? He lands on the sisters and talks to Burrell and sits there and just gets talked at by Burrell about what's happening in the Seven Kingdoms. And then Davos 2, he arrives in White Harbor and he goes to the bar and he gets talked at the bar about what's happening in the Seven Kingdoms. And then in Davos 3, he goes to the court and the Frey Manderley discussion's happening and he gets talked at about what's happening in the Seven Kingdoms. And then he spends some time in jail again. And then he gets talked at again. Like Davos himself does nothing in this story. Like he does nothing. He has no agency. He makes no choices. So I get it. Everybody loves him some Davos 4. But I realize it's all everybody else's story. It's not Davos's story anymore, right? Like when he arrives on the sisters and he's hearing about, the Sunderland's like knights, like that's Sansa's story stuff. And when he hears about like the stuff in the north and what Bolton is doing and the wedding, that's Theon stuff. There's not much Davos stuff, right? And when I'm talking Davos stuff, I'm talking like the mother doesn't come up in A Dance with Dragons. Like this dude was talked to by the mother. He mysteriously survives the Battle of the Blackwater that no one, and fans can't even explain it. Like everyone's like, I guess the faith of the Seven is real. Like no one can really explain how Davos survived. It's one of those overlooked things where people are like, well, R'hllor seems real because he does visions. And the old gods and the trees clearly have like telepathic powers. But the faith of the Seven seems made up, except for fucking Davos, right? Like, but that's just forgotten, not mentioned. His vision, his relationship, his whole questioning Stannis path undone. And so we're left with this potential for something really cool. And I think everybody loves them some Davos 4 because, one, things are so dark and nothing's looking good for the Starks and nothing's looking good for the North. And this is like this breath of hope, like, and everybody's really excited. I get it. And the idea of Davos going to Skagos and dealing with unicorns and cannibals and whatever, that seems all awesome. Really, it does. But it's not an actual, it has nothing to do with the Davos story. It has nothing to do with, like, the two characters that Davos, well, I'd say three characters. There's three characters that Davos really connects with. And that's Stannis, Melisandre, and Salladhor Saan. And none of them are in the fucking story, right? He doesn't learn to hate Melisandre more or learns to love her. He doesn't learn to hate or love Stannis more. He doesn't learn his friendship with Salladhor Saan. Like, it's mentioned at the very beginning, but, in flashback, but that's it, So, like, on its own, the Davos story is just, it kind of bothers me, the Dance with Dragons, like, Davos story, because we're supposed to project, like, where is Davos supposed to go as a character? Well, I don't know. Because all of that questioning of Stannis that was in A Storm of Swords disappears. It just disappears from the plot. That his religious awakening disappears from the plot. So that's my first, like, little rant on Davos. Now my other rant is the whole Skagos plot and how ridiculous it is. Okay. First of all, this idea that, like, Wex was the only person hiding in a tree and that Bolton's men didn't think to look in the trees is ridiculous. Like, that's just, like, of course he wouldn't be the only one to run into a tree. There'd be lots of people that would be, like, trying to hide in trees. It's a really obvious thing. I remember reading a cracked article about, like, the zombie apocalypse and how you shouldn't do what everybody does in zombie movies. Because, and the first one is, don't go to the gun store. Like, I get it. In every zombie movie, they go to the gun store and they get loaded up on guns. But if you're in a zombie apocalypse, that's everyone. Everyone is thinking, I need to go to the gun store. And you're going to arrive at the gun store and you're going to be fighting with other people over the guns, or the guns are all going to be gone. Like, don't go to the gun store. Okay. It's a really bad plan to go to the gun store. So it's the same with the trees. Like, how is Wex the only one who has this idea to hide in a tree? And the Boltons, they didn't look in the fucking trees? Fine. Okay. Let's just accept that. And then somehow the direwolves didn't smell Wex? Okay, fine. Direwolves didn't, man, remember there's ash in the air or something? They didn't smell Wex, fine. Wex sits there and he listens to everything. He's, close enough to listen to Luwin and Osha and everybody talk. And then he gets down from that tree, this 12-year-old boy. And rather than walking to where Ironborn are, keep in mind at this point, the Ironborn are at Deepwood Mott. They're at Torrens Square. They're at Deepwood Mott, Torrens Square, and in the neck. but like, he chooses to not go to any of those locations, and instead decides to follow Osha and Rickon. To what? Like, why? Why would he follow Osha and Rickon? He's not even following Bran. He's not even following the heir. He decides, I'm going to go in the opposite direction for hundreds of fucking miles. Like, I'm going to like make sure I stay downwind or upwind from the wolf the whole time, who didn't smell me in the tree, but now I'm going to stay upwind from him, and follow Rickon and Osha far enough that he somehow figures out they're going to Skagos, which I don't understand. Like, how far did he fucking walk before he figured it out? Like, how can you figure it out? Let's say you walk behind Osha and Rickon hundreds of fucking miles and you get all the way to the fucking coast and you see him jumping in little boats and you see him going off. How does he know they're going to Skagos? Like, how did he figure that out? Did he overhear Osha say to Lewin, by the way, I'm going to Skagos, stab? Like, did that happen? And if so, why did he follow him? Like, he doesn't need to follow him now. So, and even if he figured out they're going to Skagos, I don't understand Manderley's mission. Like, I don't understand why he needs a smuggler. Davos is a smuggler. So what is Davos smuggling past? And where do they think Rickon is? Because Skagos is huge. As I said, it's like saying like, oh, they're somewhere in Nebraska. And you're like, okay, I got to rescue them from Nebraska. Well, where in fucking Nebraska? Nebraska's fucking huge, So what is Davos smuggling past? How is he finding Rickon in the middle of Skagos when Skagos is huge? I mean, it seems like from the Wolf Dream that Rickon is in the wilderness, or at least Shaggy Dog is in the wilderness because he kills a unicorn in the rain. So you could argue like he's smuggling past one party on Skagos and trying to get to a second party. But if Rickon is with a second party, then why is he in the wilderness? And how does Wex know all of this? And how does he communicate it? And I've really and here's the thing is I don't know if any of this makes sense, but it's kind of weird that in A Dance with Dragons, Davos's story is over by the first third of the book. And then there's nothing more. And so I'm starting to think that like George himself wrote that story and then was like, fuck. Yeah, I don't know what he's doing. And then just didn't continue the story. I mean, I know a lot of people are convinced that the hooded man has something to do with the Davos story and Rickon coming back. But he doesn't, George decided not to write any Skagos for the rest of the book. He gets to the 1/3 point and then it's just was it because George couldn't figure it out? He couldn't figure out how the hell, why is a smuggler needed? How is he finding Rickon in a place as big as Nebraska? What on earth is going on? So these are my rants. I would love someone to have a good idea on this. Some people have sent me sample Davos chapters, but they don't kind of address this issue. What is Davos smuggling past? Why was a smuggler needed? George, I also don't know if George has really thought about what smugglers do. Davos is all about black sails and sneaking in ships places, but that's not really how smuggling works. Smuggling works as in you go into a port and then you bribe a specific official to overlook the inspection and then have it bypassed. That's how most smuggling happens. It's mainly about bribery and networking, not sneaking in hidden ports and having black sails and stuff. But so I don't know what, when Manderley's I need a smuggler, it's what, you need me to bribe somebody? Because that's really what I'm talented in. I know how to bribe. That's the whole thing about smuggling. Anyway, I hope people have good ideas. I don't know. I'm just at a loss. I've put so much thought into what the hell is he doing? And this is not even getting to the point with reconciling the timeline. The fact that if something happens with Davos, that it would have been in the middle portion of the Dance with Dragons, and we would have to have all of that adventure in flashback, or you'd have a chapter that's way, way, way out in like the timeline. Like I understand that, you know, the the Ironborn chapters happened way early in A Feast for Crows and stuff like that. Like, but it's like before the Red Wedding and things like that. But still, having the Skagos chapter so early and some, you know, it's hard for me to reconcile it all. I'm almost thinking like, you know, maybe just Davos just died. He just died off screen. I'm kidding, but we will okay. All right. Is Davos going to empty his onions into a Skagosi woman? This is an interesting question because George R. Martin apparently J.K. Rowling made a comment that like one of the big rules of fantasy is you don't have sex near unicorns, and George R. Martin was like, you know, I think I might break that just for the sake of it, which I do think is pretty funny. I think there should be sex near unicorns, and yeah, I think that I've been doing some thinking about the Davos story and whether or not like the Skagosi could be like at least some of them be like an underground society looking for fresh genes, you know, which is by the plot of A Boy and His Dog. I don't know if you guys ever saw A Boy and His Dog, but it's a before Mad Max, there was another Mad Max movie called A Boy and His Dog, based on a short story, and it starred Don Johnson, very young, and he's wandering the wasteland with his telepathic dog, which, I mean, Rickon has his telepathic wolf, and it's pretty rough story. He goes around like, you know, just trying to find food and rape women. Like that's his goal in life. And they comes across this underground society that wants him to, you know, join. And, you know, this woman tries to seduce him and get him to join the society. And, you know, he escapes and then, you know, kills the woman and they cannibalize her. Which, I mean, he at least feeds it to the dog. I think maybe he eats her as well. So, I mean, there's a lot of, maybe it's coincidence, but like there's a lot of A Boy and His Dog like plots, you know, because there is a place in Skagos called Deep Down. And I think the place in A Boy and His Dog, it's called Down Under, I think. Anyway, I mean, you could even argue like that, you know, that's a shaggy dog. That's Don Johnson, young Don Johnson there, you know, so. Anyway, we'll see. You think we should have gotten Davos 5 on getting to Skagos? I do. I think that it's odd that Davos story just cuts off. I'm trying to think of any, like, besides Theon and his radio silence for a book, you know, do we have another example of a character that they just stop with their story for 2/3 of a book? You know, it's I mean, Ares Oakheart. That's that, but yeah, I think probably there should have been a chapter of him on Skagos, but I don't think George, again, like ask yourself, like who is Davos smuggling past? You know, where is he? Why would they need a smuggler? Like, why does he need a smuggler? Like, Manderly's sitting there and be like, I need a smuggler to get me Rickon back. How, a smuggler? Okay. All right. People not finding Wex is time-traveling Bran messaging their minds. That's the only explanation. I mean, as silly as that is, like, it's the only explanation. Like that the werewood was somehow creating, like somebody said, a glamour or an influence bubble or something around it to protect him. That everybody got close and they're like, "Ooh, I don't see anything," or something. Like the only thing that makes sense would be that they let him survive. That time traveling Bran was like in one timeline, Wex was slaughtered, and so in this timeline, I am hiding him behind like a million ravens, like, and no one can see him, But maybe Davos will smuggle him because the Boltons know of his survival and watch the coast. But the Boltons don't have any ships. So, like, the North doesn't have any ships except for the ships that Manderley has built. So, I mean, I don't know what they would be watching. I mean, you could make the argument about that. And also the Boltons aren't on the coast. Widow's Watch is. So, I mean, the idea is that maybe Widow's Watch could like report it, but we already kind of know that Widow's Watch is aligned with Manderley, which is the problem. So here's the idea again. So here's Widow's Watch on the peninsula here. You can see the Dreadfort is inland. So the Dreadfort doesn't have eyes on the coast. And you could put some people here. But if you're a ship, like, I mean, I don't know how far these people like to get from the coast, but it seems like you could just cut across and not get close to the mouth of the river, of the Bolton's River anyway. But whatever the case, they don't have any ships. I don't see why they would be. I mean, Carhold keeping a watch on. But again, they don't have ships, so you could go right by and they'd be like, oh no, they're going to get Rickon, can't do anything about it. Like, they don't have any ships. Honestly, to keep the plot moving forward, you need Davos and Rickon to somehow take the Dreadfort as well, since they're going to delay things further. But Theon is the one that knows about the Dreadfort, so it seems like they could have that, them take it really fast. But I guess Manderley doesn't want Bolton to suspect he wants to reinstall a Stark in Winterfell. Simple as that. The Wex thing is odd, though. I'm just saying, like, is that it? Like, you think, like, I'm trying to think, because he says here, all right, the actual, on, like, why they need specifically Davos, which is the weird thing, right? Here's Dance. See, Davos even questions this. He's like, you have better men than me in your service, knights and lords and maesters. Why would you need a smuggler? You have ships. Ships, but my crew are rivermen or fisherfolk who have never sailed beyond the Bight. For this, I must have a man who has sailed in darker waters and knows how to slip past dangers, unseen and unmolested. So it's like, what dangers does he need to slip by, and to where? I mean, it might be that Skagos has different factions and you want to slip by one faction and like get to a different faction. Like, I think the Skagos, like, if you look, like, Skagos kind of maybe have this bay here. So maybe he could like slip by one house and then try to communicate with a different house. But considering Stannis himself is like, and Salladhor Saan are like running these waters, like, does it, is it that the Boltons, the Boltons need to see that? Like, what would they even like recognize? We see a ship. How do you know that Rickon's aboard? Nice, he says, so he needs to smuggle in. I think he said, does he say smuggle in earlier? He definitely says smuggle me back. But I think there might also be a smuggle in. Let's do a search here. Smuggle. Maybe he meant to say snuggle. He really wanted someone to snuggle with. Smuggler's life, smuggler's life. Better smuggler than a knight. He says, it's not a king I need, but a smuggler. Smuggle me back, my liege lord. Why would you need a smuggler? But I need someone that can get past dangers. I don't know what the dangers are. Is it as simple as just like, oh, well, we don't want the Boltons who somehow don't have ships, but somehow would be watching? Or is there like a faction on Skagos? I don't know. It is a lot simpler if it were he just meant the Boltons, but they don't have fucking ships. Manderly is the goat. I know everybody loves fucking Manderly, but he's also really stupid. Like, he's really stupid. Like, why would you kill the Freys rather than having 3 hostages? Like, why? Why get your belly slit open at the end of the story? He also like gets these pies. Like, say the pies are made of Freys. He doesn't tell the Freys. Like they go on to their death never having known that they ate other random Freys. Like, so they're none the wiser. So like, what revenge is that? Like, haha, like, yourself that Aenys Frey like ate some. I think it's just Aenys, and Aenys dies. I don't know if any Frey, because you don't hear about Hostine eating. You don't hear about Hostine eating the pie. You only hear about you only hear about Aenys, I think, eating it. But it says Manderly devoured 6 portions, 2 of them smacking his lips. I guess Fat Walda Frey like ate a bunch, like, but she had nothing to do with the Red Wedding. It's not like she's sitting there, scheming for the Red Wedding. She's like an innocent bystander, pretty much. Ramsay ate it, but he doesn't care. Manderly himself. That's about it. But they all go on to their death without ever having to know it. So, like, what's the? I mean, it's so this is the audience, so he can laugh, Theory: Dany and Drogo's child Rhaego is still alive. Mir Maz-Dur lied, and no body was confirmed stillborn. Discuss. It's true that we never see the body. Jorah claims that he saw the body, but Dany never sees it. And so it's, I think in all honesty, I think it's probably one of those things that George left as a path open had he wanted to, but I don't think he's going down that road. I think, let's see here. I think what it's the line that Jorah gives about it. He says, Why should they kill a baby? He's Drogo's son, my baby. Hold on a second. Frey tier list when is what Carmine sent me a message there. I was like, maybe like we rank the phrase S tier phrase versus like minor phrase, like F tier phrase. That's a funny video actually. We have to Carmine I have to do it before it gets done by somebody else. It seems like something Glidus and Altshift would do. Ranking phrase. But yes, we never see the baby. It's probably something that George thought was going to be was maybe keep it open, but it's never pursued. And now, I mean, what is this baby just gonna fucking suddenly appear? You know, in the 6th book, that'd be something. That'd be something. Like Rhaego's still alive. You know. I mean, maybe somebody could bring it up to drive Dany mad, you know. But yeah, Jorah has to be in on it if it's a lie. That's the hard part, is actually Jorah being in on it. Preston, if you watched the Lost Lands trailer, yeah, Carmine and I discussed it a bit over on his channel, but I did it. There is aspects that look like the source material, and there's aspects that don't. But I mean, obviously, it looks like a quest between two people that are going out and searching for a werewolf, and one of them happens to be a werewolf. You know, like that's in it. They have the fight between the werewolf and the bird. You know, but when I read the short story, it didn't seem post-apocalyptic, and it certainly didn't seem like a Resident Evil movie. For those that don't know what we're talking about, in the Lost Land, like a George R. R. Martin movie is coming out, in the Lost Lands, and starring Mila. It's by the same director who did Resident Evil, who's married to Mila Jovovich. So it's like, I mean, this thing is the thing about like Paul W.S. Anderson. He's like, I'm gonna direct a bunch of fucking movies so I can get to know Mila Jovovich, and then I'm gonna marry her and just keep making Resident Evil movies, and that'll be our life. Like me and this beautiful woman making Resident Evil movies, like, and he's made one more Resident Evil movie in the Lost Lands. Skagos is another force. North has soldiers hid. I mean, I don't know why they'd hide them there. You know, like lots of people say they didn't bring, like Lady Dustin says she didn't bring many forces to the war. And Manderley says he still has a bunch of forces left over. And clearly fucking Howland Reed was, you know, holding his dick the whole time. So he's still got all of his forces. So it's not that like forces don't exist, but like, why would you hide them on Skagos? Like, does Skagos have that many people? How many people can it survive, like support this mountainous, very North Island? So one of the ideas that I've been toying with is whether or not. So there's a few mysteries about Osha. So like Osha comes south of the wall with a couple Night's Watch deserters, and we're never told like where these guys were from or how they know Osha, like what the whole deal is with them. And so it would be interesting if like they were from Eastwatch and Osha and the guys like crossed over there, like near the Bay of Seals, and that's how they got around the wall, and that maybe she has some connections to Skagos. Like maybe that's the whole reason that she went, is that she has connections there. Though it's really weird that she comes fleeing south scared and makes it all the way to Winterfell and then decides, I'm going to go all the way fucking back north to Skagos. Like, what? Why wouldn't you fucking do that in the first place? Like, if you think Skagos is safe, why didn't you go there in the first place rather than marching all the way down south, close to Winterfell? Fucking George. Fucking Osha story doesn't make any fucking sense either. God damn it. God damn it. Osha doesn't make any fucking sense. Maybe she went to Osha first. Maybe Osha went to Skagos first and they kicked her out. Because she was harboring Night's Watch people and Skagos didn't want the wrath of the North. I don't know. Smuggler needed for rough and treacherous waters around Skagos. Smuggling an important person. Working on Maester Coleman wrote the pig letter theory. Maester Coleman. That's an ambitious one. I don't know how Maester Coleman is finding out about everything. My God. Maester Coleman. How's he? Try to work this one out. Okay. Sweet Robin. Okay. Maester Coleman wrote the pink letter. He's using sweet sleep or some other drug to induce visions in Sweet Robin, and Sweet Robin is telling him what's going on around the kingdom. Because remember, it's not like they have a glass candle or a werewood. They don't have a functioning werewood. They have a werewood throne. I don't know if that werewood throne would be workable. Maybe it is. Maybe Sweet Robin can use Sweet Robin's. He gives him the medicine. Sweet Robin enters the throne. He's in the werewood net. He's finding out all around Westeros. And then, Sweet Robin can't write himself. So he asks Maester Coleman to write the pink letter for him. And then it's all been Sweet Robin. Unfortunately, they leave the Eyrie pretty early. Is there a werewood at the Gates of the Moon? No. But he's away from the throne and he's not near a fucking werewood. That's a really hard one. I don't know how they're finding out what's going on at the wall without any werewoods around. I mean, smuggler needed for rough and treacherous waters. I don't know why. I mean, he did say that his guys are rivermen and that they're not very good at like going out in the ocean. So he does need an experienced sailor. I don't know why he needs a smuggler. He just needs an experienced sailor. Like I say, like George doesn't seem to know what a smuggler does. Like they bribe people. They bribe people in ports. Because it's not like you can just find random ports to like it's one thing if you've got like some tiny little, dinghy or whatever. But like if you have a cargo ship that you're trying to smuggle some cargo in, like I think in the Middle Ages, like wool was something that was smuggled because of duties or whatever. You're trying to avoid duties, right? And so you're trying to smuggle something in without paying the duty on it so you can make more money. So you've got to have like big cargo holds, which means you can only it's not like you can just like pull up your ship to a random like cove. Like you need a proper port with docks and shit, like in order to like bring that cargo ship in. Which involves just like bringing it into a regular port and then bribing people. It's weird smuggling stuff. Like, like a talented smuggler. I'm going to get my cargo ship, like ram it up on the beach. I mean, maybe you could park it out in the bay and then bring in all of your stuff on like little boats. Maybe. Yeah, how is Wex even knowing that they're staying close to him? I have no idea. I don't know how he would have listened. Like, why would you spend, like, he's on foot. Like, it took John 3 weeks to ride to the wall. So you're talking like, was Wex like following him for months?